The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on August 5th, 2025.
Welcome to Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Now here's your host for Business Matters, Pam Tupop. Good morning, Pam.
Hey, good morning, Gary. How are you this morning?
Doing very well.
It is another beautiful day, and thankfully the fire is out.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Kahanapali. Yeah, so we keep getting a few scares here and there, aren't we?
yeah. I see you survived the tsunami way up there in Pukalani.
Yeah, I actually had a friend from who had been with the SBA, and unfortunately, as Trump came in, he was one of the deputy directors, so his job was changed. But he called and said, "Just checking on you." And I said, "Oh, we're good. We live up country."
Yeah, if a tsunami reached up there, then we'd have a lot bigger problems.
That would be a big issue. But we had a chance to offer the house to others who wanted to come up, and it was a great night, but everything was fine, so all was good. Yeah, how did you fare?
Oh, we were fine. I left work a little bit. It took me about a half an hour to get home, where it normally takes me 10 minutes. But other than that, it was fine.
Yeah.
Like I'm 130 feet above sea level, so I was fine out there in Waihe'e. So.
Yeah. Well, and Amber lives in Kihei, and she lives just above the line, but she was able to go up onto Maui Meadows, and so it was everybody was making that trek, but to watch the traffic and to see what was happening with the traffic was,
Yeah, that was the worst part. It was the traffic.
That was the worst part, but a good example, so we can learn from it, because thankfully we didn't hit, and so now we know how to manage that better.
We should all just retire and stay home all the time, then we don't have to worry. If only that was true.
If only that was true. Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you for all you do for our show. We so appreciate you, and we just want to thank everybody for joining us today. We are going to have a great show this morning. We're going to speak with Councilmember Gabe Johnson to discuss the new bills that address agricultural food trucks and tourism and how they impact people in Maui County, and some of the other things that he's working on in his committee, as well as talk to Jen Currie of the Pacific Whale Foundation and get reacquainted with all the things they offer, as well as a few new things that you might not know about. And I want to tell you, we had a phenomenal chamber cruise the other week with Pacific Whale Foundation, a sunset cruise. And it was amazing. And also it was great to hear about the research work they're doing and the changes they're making, not only here in Maui in protecting the whales, but in other countries across the globe. So very exciting to have her on. But first, we're going to start with Councilmember Gabe Johnson. He is in his third term representing the Lana'i residency on the Maui County Council, where he currently serves as the chair of the ADEPT committee. We use a lot of acronyms, and for good reason, because it is otherwise known as Agriculture, Diversification, Environment, and Public Transportation Committee. Imagine that diversity in there. So Councilmember Johnson is the vice chair of the WASSP, also known as the Water Authority, Social Services, and Parks Committee. As a farmer and a resident of Lana'i for over 20 years, Councilmember Johnson has been a powerful advocate for our rural communities, tackling critical issues from affordable housing and food security to social services. He has been a driving force behind landmark legislation to prioritize affordable homes for local families, expand support for our farmers through grants and deregulation, and increase funding for our most vulnerable residents. Good morning, Councilmember Johnson. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Pam. Thank you so much for having me, and what a lovely introduction. I really appreciate your words. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. We have been so excited with some of the bills you've introduced. I'd like to start off by, you've introduced two bills specifically to help agriculture recently. And I'd love to have you tell us first about Bill 76, which was about food trucks on ag lands. And just before the show, we were talking briefly, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about, how long this took, but tell everybody what Bill 76 was meant to do and where the bill ended up and how it will help our farmers.
Yeah, so, Bill 76 allows farmers to put a food truck on their working farm and without a permit. So before, that was allowable, but as administrations change, so do the way some folks read the laws. So the departments were coming down on some of the farmers and saying, "Oh no, you need a permit for that." Well, to get a permit for a food truck, it takes a long time and it's very expensive. And many people they just won't, especially the small farmers. They're making very small profit margins. Maybe large farms take for example the vodka farm up country, Ocean Vodka. They're a larger farm. They could maybe hire somebody to do this type of application. Small farms, it's the mom and pops who have to go through this process to get this massive paperwork done, costs so much money. So we wanted to just take that out and just say, look, it's an allowable use. Go ahead. It's an accessory. You can just put on a food truck on your working farm and sell the crops that you grow. That I think when we talk to farmers who actually had a food truck on their land, that was helping them pay the bills. That helped our whole community with food security because then that farmer can grow the food for their food truck, but they can also grow the other stuff that don't really make the money that, say, for example, a food truck would make. So it balances out their farm, and it takes away that long, lengthy process of getting a permit, which they never required to until this new administration came on.
That's funny. I mean, we've been ringing in on this bill because we saw, we've been helping farmers for a long time, and we saw the importance of this bill. And for a very long time, 1,000 square foot commercial restaurant was allowed, also without going through the lengthy process. But I didn't realize that this change initiated from a change in how this administration viewed it. So we were ringing in going, okay, this is, why is this a problem? Should be a no-brainer. But I didn't realize that there was a new view of looking at it through this administration.
Right. And you bring up a very valid point, Pamela, that on agricultural lands, you're allowed to build a restaurant. And that is something, without a permit. You need your state permits and all that, Department of Health stuff. But for county, it's an allowable use. Go ahead, build a restaurant on farmland. The problem with that, though, is we want to have ag land at a lower value because farmers can farm it. A farmer can't buy land if it's such a high value. They'll never make their money to get out of the hole of the purchase of the land. So having a food truck, which is mobile, you just take it off, you put it on, it doesn't add or subtract to the value of the land, whereas a restaurant on your ag land would add to the value. So I like the idea of a food truck. It's mobile, you can take it on, you put it off, and it keeps the value of ag lands low. That's a really important point for our food security again. You want to have it so that they're able to make some profit off of the crops that they grow. If their mortgage is so high, they're going to be underwater. Right.
No, it's very true. I've recently bought some ag land. Well, a couple of years ago, I bought some ag land, and ag land is going up. As you say. Yeah. When I was trying to buy for our family and our family plan, we were seeing a lot of foreign investment come in, picking up large agricultural parcels. So keeping it so that our farmers can continue to make money and retain their land is critically important. And this is one of those assets that, it's an avenue where not only can they make additional income, but they can use their product in the farm stand, their products in the farm stand as well. And essentially having another way to sell it.
Yeah, and there's such a big demand for people who want to buy food that's grown right there, right? If I have, I'm for my farm, for example, on Lana'i, I have mamaki tea. They want to have that mamaki tea. They can see the trees in the back of my farm. There they are. That's the trees that this tea came from. If you're growing watermelon, there's the watermelon patch. Here's the watermelon slice. People like that. They see the value in that. And it's not imported. It's not bought from Costco. These are the things, increase the value. The farmers want to grow it and sell it right there. You cut out the middleman. It just makes a lot of sense, to do it this way. So I think that's a big win for our farmers. And sometimes I work, I'm a council member. So of course I'm going to, look at some of the laws that are kind of impeding our small farmers. And this was one, and we don't want them to go through that big process and get a permit for that.
Right. Absolutely. We appreciate that, because there's been so many arenas of economic activity that has gotten really overly regulated, where we're trying to do good things. And this will kind of lead into our next discussion. But I appreciate that you're looking at how to streamline that, but also, really doing some solid work for the farmers and giving them an opportunity, because farming is hard work. It's a lot of effort. And as you say, that you have to have a sizable amount of land to do it, and you have to, in down markets right now when things are not selling as frequently as they used to, these avenues are really helping local farmers sustain their operations, not only in good times, but in difficult times. Yeah.
And, as far as the farmer as a group go, they're aging out, right? Our farmers are getting older and older, and we need a younger generation to kind of pick up the pick, as they say, and get in the fields, because our old folks, the farmers with all that knowledge that they have, they need to pass it on to somebody. But the younger folks are going to look at the price of land, and it just doesn't pencil out for them. So the food truck makes that. I think it really helps make those two folks meet, where you have farmer with land, they've got a business that's producing, they have a food truck that's selling, and then you just teach the youth, and then now the community benefits. Everybody wins.
I agree, and I'll tell you from some of the work that we've been doing, that it's the diversity in the job that also really excites the young people. So again, different options, and they can do
your own boss.
Yeah, it's really fabulous. I love that. So I'm now curious. This is a slightly different bill, but you've also worked on Bill 75, which helps to establish agricultural tourism. That also took a little longer to pass. But I'd love for you to share what this bill does to help farmers, and how this bill will help Maui County grow the future. It's very aligned with some of the things we've been talking about with regenerative tourism. So can you share a little bit about the process of this? What were some of the hiccups? Because we looked at it and said,
sure,
this is so aligned with our tourism plans and everything else. So I'd love to understand it and share a little bit about how this came forward and some of the changes you made along the way that helped it get through to address some of the concerns that came up.
Sure. Well, first off, the state, Hawaii State mandated that the counties can regulate ag tourism if they define it. So I said, all right, challenge accepted. Let's go define what ag tourism means. And we went through this long process. We had to go through all three planning commissions, just like the ag truck bill. We had, it took, again, both these bills took about 1.5 years, 2 years to get all done, and it was a lot of work. So we had to go through the definition, and then by defining it, you can regulate it. So in the meantime, it goes back to that same story where administration came down and told Hawaiian farmers that you can't have a lei-making class. You need a permit for a lei-making class. You need a permit to do any kind of tours. You need a permit to do any kind of Hawaiian-style planting. And that is just too much. I keep going to this idea that we want to make it easy for farmers to farm, and the county should sometimes get out of its way for like these little guys trying to get a permit. It goes back to the same story. A large farm could probably find somebody and pay them to do a permit, whereas small farms cannot. And that's a small farming group called the Ag Working Group came to me on both of these bills, told me the story of these, this one Hawaiian farmer. The county came and shut him down. He said, you can't do this kind of activities without a permit. So we go back to this one and we say, okay, let's define ag tourism. And by defining it, then we can regulate it. And what we did was we want to make it so you don't need a permit to do a lei making class. It's just that simple. So that's the route we went. But then it gets into the weeds of like definitions. So I'll just read a little paragraph for you out of the bill to kind of give you an example of what would be allowable. Demonstrations, workshops, or presentations relating to agricultural practices and products grown, raised, caught, or produced in Hawaii, with priority given to county-grown, raised, caught, produced agricultural products, value-added products including botanical, traditional crafts such as lei making, kui-ai, cordage and rope making, saddlery, leatherworking, basketry, weaving, carving, featherwork, coffee roasting and tasting, tea processing and brewing, tapa production, honey and beeswax production, cacao production, tasting, dairying, and cheese making, cooking, lapa'au, and instruction in the use of medicinal plants, native Hawaiian agricultural practices, and agricultural conservation, innovation, and sustainability. So we had to kind of, there's just some examples of demonstrations that would be allowable. And to do this is, well, again, I spoke one farmer. She made a really good example. She's a small farmer on Lana'i, 2-acre lot. But it's hard to make ends meet. But if she does one tour a month, she keeps the lights on. She pays the bills. Then she can get into farming and growing the crop and feeding people. So, yeah, you do one tour a month, and then you can go on and grow stuff for the community. Yeah, sign me up. That's a good idea. I like that. So that was the impetus of the bill, and that's what some of the things we did to make that happen. So, now I'm going to get in the weeds, no pun intended, when we talk about farming, but we wanted to kind of make sure that some folks weren't taking advantage of Hawaiian culture. We've seen in the past a lot of people who don't know any of the cultural practices, and then they try to monetize it, and it brings a lot of bad blood up. So what we did was we said, okay, we have a new office of OEV in the Maui County, and we'll let them look at these, and they can maybe have a say on what is culturally appropriate. We have a great director, deputy director in that department, and for them to bring them into the table and let them share their concerns, I think that was a good kind of in the middle ground for this. So that's what happened, and it passed, and I'm really excited. So now some of our Hawaiian farmers can invite people onto their farm and teach them how to make lei properly, and I think it's a good thing.
I think it's a phenomenal thing, and and again, there was an incident brought up, and the sad part was a bunch of people. I'm sure somebody knows, but I'm not sure who and it doesn't really matter who the business is. The question was, what did they do that was inappropriate? But it was considered. There was a concern that the Planning Commission reviewed that was brought up where somebody was not being culturally appropriate. And so there was a lot of discussion about that, which is valid to have the discussion. It's hard to have the discussion though when we don't even know what the example was of what went wrong. Yeah. But I really commend you for how you worked on coming up with something so that, again, in the beginning, they were talking about, like a whole layer that would be something that would hold things up and, felt like another permitting layer to go through that. Right, and yet you came up with which again would hold people back, would make smaller farmers go through, an arduous process that, again, many of them, are Hawaiian or part Hawaiian or people who've lived here for many, many years and who love Hawaii and really say, okay, but who wouldn't want counsel from the Office of OEV Resources, right? What a great blessing that is to learn, to talk to them about what you're looking to do and to hear their thoughts. And so I thought that was such a fabulous compromise. To to put forward so that people can do it right. We don't want to do it wrong or say the wrong thing. But one of the things I also learned, though, and this was something that I was very passionate about just because of what we learned doing a musician's grant last year, is when it comes to Hawaiian culture and working with some Hawaiian practitioners, I had a chance to talk story with many of them, and many of them had different takes on what kind of cultural clothing they wanted to wear, right? Or how they sang the songs, or how they did the storytelling. And so I would ask them, I was curious about the nuances and the differences. And they would say, well, in my family, in our culture, this is the way the story was told. Or this is the way we define this how to dance this hula. Or so it was their culture, and it was very authentic to them. But what I realized is, as different families transferred that knowledge, there were different nuances to some of it.
Sure.
And it was very interesting to me. So it's hard to make one size fits all, but I loved your compromise then, because then you can hear from the Office of OEV Resources and say, okay, hear their thoughts and incorporate it so that you can do it well and well represent Hawaii, understanding there are going to be different nuances even between families.
Exactly right. I mean, could you imagine the nightmare of trying to regulate that, where there's a lot of nuance to it? Make it kind of more simple and just say, bring the Office of OEV in, speak to them. That way we can avoid it. If we did put on another layer, it would just sound like a different way to be more bureaucratic, and we didn't want that, So I think at the end of the day, we got the votes and people were happy with it. And then now the farmers can do this without a permit, which is exactly the goal of this, the whole thing. And the way, I guess, in retrospect, if I look back on this, it kind of goes across the board for all bills and all policies. Some folks might be against a bill or a policy in the beginning, but as you bring them in and have the discussions, alleviate the concerns, talk it out, then at the end of the day, even me, I have to move. I have to be malleable. I have to, be able to spin all the plates and, get everybody on board. It's not easy to pass bills like this. It sounds easy. It's not even easy to enforce them. I mean, oh my God, you have to, it is such a rigmarole to even enforce these things. So if you work in consensus, if you bring everybody together, bring everybody at the table, I think at the end of the day, the community benefits because everybody feels heard and the bill comes out better.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think discussion is critically important, and getting people to be able to look at things from both sides and share their concerns. And and I love when the discussion is both about the pros and the cons, and again, how can we do it right? And both of these bills really looked at that. I thought you did a great job on that. And again, both passed. So we're thrilled, and I'm sure the farmers are thrilled. And I will be a one-day farmer. That's my plan. So in my retirement plan. But in the meantime, it's great to see. And again. A lot of people may not know, but I mean, normally you would have to get again, I contend that the food truck was always allowed under what was allowed under the ag uses, but to be able to do agricultural tourism without having to get a special use permit, which I've been told can cost like $30,000 to try and get, very difficult for a small farmer to be able to afford.
Yes, exactly. And you think about that, like, that's gonna, if I was wanting to do something like this on my farm, and they said, yeah, it's going to cost $30,000 at least about a year, then I'm not going to do it. That's just how it is. Unless you have the funds and time, then you would. So we want people in compliance, and we want people to actually make their bills or their farm pencil out. So that's the call.
All right. So, Gabe, one of the things, talking about agriculture and talking about sustainability and challenges that we have, one of the things that really hit a lot of people, including many of our local manufacturers, was the egg shortage that came around. And yet, you think about, years ago we lost a major commercial egg production business that stopped doing eggs. And yet everybody looks around Maui and says in Maui County, we've got a lot of chickens. So I wondered about your thoughts on this. I know I've had a meeting with the Department of Ag. I know Molokai has an excellent program. And yet up the country in Pukalani, there's discussion about so many of the loose chickens that are running wild up country. And, with Oahu having the avian flu and with, what we saw with the avian flu, and there's concern about avian flu and things like that. What are some of the things that you feel we should do, both within, egg farming comes under agriculture, but what are some of the things that you feel Maui County should be doing about our food security, and what do you see happening, in for example, egg production, and how we can look at some sustainable things, including also, another. I don't want to say chickens are a pest, but in some areas they are a pest. But also looking at access deer, and what can we do to address access deer, and maybe also make products from access deer, and how can we shore up things when, for example, eggs are so important to many people's diets. How do we look at sustainability in those realms here?
Hey, Pam, looks like I lost Gabe, so keep talking. I'm going to call him back.
Okay, fantastic. So, for those listening, I just want to remind you that his committee deals with all sorts of things, including agriculture, diversification, the environment, and also public transportation, which is a fun one as well. But we've had so many people who, of course, the egg shortage has bounced back to some degree, but eggs are still expensive, but many manufacturing companies. Oh, Gary, we can hear you making the call. Oh, there he is. Gabe's back. Hi, Gabe.
Hello?
Gary, can you hear Gabe? I can hear Gabe.
Gabe, are you there?
I'm not Gabe, but I am here.
Sorry.
We must have dialed the wrong number. Our apologies. Okay, so while Gary works to get Councilmember Johnson back on, we had so many manufacturing businesses who use eggs in their products that we have, of course, in Maui County a lot of cookie production and baked goods that require eggs. That when the price of eggs went up, over $1.30 per egg or more at times to just get the eggs, we saw huge challenges for those manufacturing companies. And so everybody was starting to look at different examples of things that we could do. And in some cases, we also look at, ways that people could have small pens at their own home with chickens to have, locally made eggs at home. But also, we also are saying it's kind of like the access deer. In some cases, the chickens are also getting to the point where there's so many of them, people are feeding them, that they're running in different areas. People are swerving to not hit chickens.
Okay, we have Gabe back on.
Fantastic.
Yep.
So, Gabe, I don't know how much of my question you heard.
Yeah, I heard your question. I don't know why the phone dropped. I apologize for that. I'm not moving. I didn't drive into a gulch. Just phone dropped.
Happens to me in Pukalani, too.
But, when it comes to the egg shortage, I think that really just showed how fragile our food production is. That we have very little security for our food. If a blight or a disease happens on the mainland and we import 90% of our food from the mainland, I think that's going to affect us, right? And affected the whole nation when a big blight came around. So, one good thing about municipalities is we're local, right? We're home rule. We're small government. We're not the feds of way out in D.C. So I think we look at everybody and I think the solution could be helping people grow their own eggs. The Victory Gardens during World War II sustained the whole country. It was almost patriotic to have a garden in your backyard. So, but that's not a case for everybody. Some neighbors don't want you to have a chicken, and we get into that debate. And I'm not here for that debate, but I'm definitely here to say, when you import 90% of your food, any hiccup in the system, we feel the shocks drastically.
Right.
So the thing is farmers, again, it always comes down to these three things. Farmers need three things: land, water, and a little bit of capital. So if you can get those to farmers, the ag parks, I love the Kula Ag Park. I think we need an ag park in every district, right? Yeah. And then you have your chickens in the ag parks. You get them out of the residential. Then you can have eggs grown in your district. You don't have to think of the cost it takes for those eggs to get all the way here and the time. You cut all that out with agricultural parks. And again, Maui County already has one. We could build more. So I totally support the idea of having ag parks, keeping the farmers on the land and giving them those micro grants. It all ties into kind of a robust system, to that allows farmers to farm, push out food, and food that we want, and everybody wants eggs. It just seems like, I go to this restaurant on Lana'i, Blue Ginger's Cafe, and they go through so many eggs. Hey, I could keep up to just one restaurant's demand, right? So
right.
That is just, I think ag parks could be a way forward in really kind of making us have resiliency.
I agree, and I absolutely agree that each island should have it. I think that's really important. And again, actually, and one of the things I was also mentioning was, again, access deer, and we're making great inroads on our access deer problem in terms of stuff. The state has ramped up, the management efforts. But I remember that one of the first deer products we ever saw at the Made in Maui County Festival was an access deer skin purse from Lana'i.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about access deer, because I know that's a hot topic. So, As you know, it's tricky to get access deer sold because requirements. The USDA certified person has to witness the kill, make sure it's a clean kill, and then you can sell that for consumption. Otherwise, hunters can go out and just shoot them, and they don't have to worry, or they just can't sell it for consumption, but they can make dog food out of it. They can eat it themselves. They can share with their friends, family, of course, all that, but you can't put it in the market. So how do you get the access deer meat in the market? That's the trick, right? So we go. There's so many hurdles. When you have the feds coming down saying you have to have someone has to witness the shot. I mean, what are you going to do? Bring a USDA guy in the truck and then come out with you hunting? That's kind of tough. Which actually Pulama Lana'i does. They bring a USDA certified person in their truck and they go and do that. Again, for small farms, and that's not really going to work. We looked around, and we're going to have this great discussion coming up in my Adept Day, 9 a.m., and we're going to talk about what we can do. Maybe it is, like you say, we control the deer, and then we make value-added products out of them, like the purse, the pelts, the horns. You can make fertilizer on them, bone meal, blood meal. All those are very important products you can produce from an access deer. You can make dog food. My dog loves the chew on them. So those are things we can do. The other thing is you can't sell it, but you can certainly donate it. And there's food banks that'll take venison. There's a guy up country that's working on this kind of system, and I think those should be all tools in the toolbox. They should be, all those things should be done. Fencing is a tool, but it's not the beginning and end of deer, right? Because deer will just go around the fence to someone who isn't fenced, right? Are you going to do fencing the whole island? I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I was talking. I mean, we have some 8-foot fencing, but also I was talking to some others, who were saying, yeah, well, the 8-foot fencing worked for a while, but now they're jumping higher. So I mean, it does need a lot of effort, and I do want to mention because you mentioned it too. So I'm on the board of Feed My Sheep, and Feed My Sheep is also people are donating to Feed My Sheep. Who helps feed the hungry across the island and delivers to different locations to get people food where they are. But it's really the donation part. Also, the legislature the other year made donating easy. That also once was a problem, and so but now it's more easy to donate to food programs that help feed others without deep liability concerns, right? As long as you followed best and appropriate practices and handled the meat appropriately. So that's helped a lot. Well, tell us about this big presentation you've got coming up, because you've arranged quite a lineup of people to speak about this.
Oh yeah, we've got so in my committee we're going to go over the Maui County Food Security Plan this Thursday. This was a plan that the Maui County's going to be working on. It's got 4 main goals, and it's all about resiliency, growing the right culturally appropriate food, expanding producers, supporting producers, helping farmers, building vibrant local food economies, creating good paying careers out of farming, and then promoting healthy, resilient ecosystems and, responsible stewardship. These are all really important things that's in the plan. And I read it, and I'm really excited to share with the community. So that's going to be on the first item on the agenda. The other one is the access to mitigation. And like you said, we have a lot of people on this panel, the folks who are out there that are doing control. We've got our own Department of Ag. Just a lot of people want to have this discussion on what is the best way for it. I even invited Pulama Lana'i to come and speak on that, which I'm excited to hear, because they, on Lana'i, we have a lot of access to hear more deer than people.
Yes.
And, how do they regulate them? How do they control them? What's their practices? Let's share. So want to learn about that. And the other thing is this is another big thing on the agenda, is the Maui County biosecurity. We spend so much money on invasive species, like the koki frogs, all the, fire ants, the list goes on, coconut rhino beetle now. Right. How do we have a biosecurity plan that just prevents them even coming in? Because when you clean them up, when you chase them down and you try to catch them, it just takes so much money. So let's have us come up with a good secure plan at our ports and our harbors, and good practices that keep our ecosystem pest free, keep the invasives out. What are other communities doing? So we've got some really good folks there that are going to speak on that. So the state's doing things as well for biosecurity. So if the state is doing things for access to the air, for biosecurity, then let's learn about them and let's find out what we can cherry pick and work with. So I think it's going to be a great meeting. It's an all-day meeting. We're going to have a lot of talk about it, and really experts. And this is important to have these kinds of meetings so we can form policies. And then if there's budget needed, I'll know, and the council will know well in advance that this upcoming budget, we're going to put money in for biosecurity, or we're going to put money in for the security, the food security. How do we help our farmers, really make them robust and resilient? And then, right now we're in the middle of a big drought, as how, the fire was mentioned, and how you can see the grass, on my farm, my grass is crunchy, it's dry. So when in those times, access deer come out of where they're hiding and they go into where it's green, which is your front lawn and on the road, and car accidents go up. So what are we going to do about these things? And we need policies, and we're all going to have that discussion in my committee.
I am so excited about this coming up this Thursday. And so tell everybody what time it starts and how they can tune in. Or you can attend in person too. But
9 a.m. at the county building, 8th floor. You can see it on Teams. You can see it on Facebook Live. And, of course, welcome to the chambers. And you can testify at the beginning of the meeting or after, when the item comes up. But, if you guys want to testify, come on down. We'd love to have you. But I think this is, we have such a big panel for all these topics. It's going to be a pretty crowded discussion, which is good. We want to have all the experts in speaking all their points and what we can glean from this. So that's 9 a.m. August 7th. Come on down.
Fantastic. Gabe, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been a treasure to talk to you. Thank you for sharing the work you've been doing on these bills and the tremendous help it will provide our farmers and the work you're doing on food security and biosecurity. It's a great deal of work, but I'm excited that you're digging in, and I hope we see great improvement from getting more people educated and having these important discussions.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your time, Pamela. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my great pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too. Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you.
Bye.
Aloha. Bye. All right. Well, we are excited to now have Jen Currie join us. She is the Chief Specialist at Pacific Whale Foundation. Excuse me. He is the Chief Scientific. I said specialist. Chief Scientist. Sorry, my eyes are blurring a little bit as I'm trying to read this. At Pacific Whale Foundation. In his role, Jens directs vital research efforts in Hawaii, Australia, Ecuador, and Chile, focusing on how whales and dolphins respond to environmental changes and human impacts. His work is crucial for developing effective conservation strategies to protect these marine animals. Jens also lends his expertise to the Advisory Council for the Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary and serves on the Scientific Committee of the International Whaling Commission, contributing to global marine conservation efforts. Aloha, Jens. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so great to have you. Can you share with everybody a little bit? I mean, most people know about Pacific Whale Foundation to different degrees, but can you share a little bit about your mission and what sets you apart based on the kind of work that you do to protect whales and other marine life?
Yeah, sure. So Pacific Whale Foundation is a nonprofit organization, and we're dedicated to protecting whales, dolphins, and really any marine life in our oceans through science, advocacy, with a focus of inspiring environmental stewardship in both this and the next generation. And what really sets us apart is we're not just a research program, or we're not just an education program, or we're not just a conservation program. We're actually all three. And this integrated approach allows us to address the challenges that whales and dolphins face from start to finish. And what I mean by that is our research guides our advocacy and policy work, and both of these feed into education programs that inspire the public to become ocean stewards and equip the next generation with the knowledge they need to learn about the stressors and threats facing marine life and how they can protect them within their lifetime. And so while many know that we have roots here in Hawaii, they might not know that our work extends throughout the Pacific. And we conduct long-term scientific studies in Australia, Ecuador, Chile, really focusing on at-risk or endangered species, those that really need our help to recover. And our scientists are working to address 5 key issues, including climate change, fisheries interactions, plastic pollution, vessel strikes, and unsustainable tourism. And this research is all done to inform management decisions, shape policy, and really drive practical science-based solutions to protect marine life. A little bit closer to home in Maui, we deliver education programs both in the classroom and on the water, and we reach thousands of local students each year. And we also partner with community organizations to provide hands-on opportunities, connect people to the land, the ocean, and fostering really a lifelong commitment to environmental stewardship. So in summary, across all of our regions, we do combine credible science, conservation action, education, and outreach to ensure the whales, dolphins, and the oceans they depend on are protected for generations to come.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And we just had a great sale with Pacific Whale Foundation and learned again that you are working across the globe to do these amazing projects. And, research and education, we were floored many of us were floored to know that, which is very exciting. And I'm glad you shared that. Another thing that you're doing is you're working with false killer whales, and it's a priority for Pacific Whale Foundation. Can you tell us more about this population and the research you're doing to help protect them?
Yeah, this is one of my top priorities and really the focus of my research. And false killer whales, as many of your listeners are probably wondering right now, what is a false killer whale? They're one of the least known large dolphins in the world, so not very popular. But there's a unique population here in Hawaii called the main Hawaiian Islands insular false killer whales. And so they're not actually killer whales or orcas. They're actually more closely related to other dolphins. But they got their name because their shape is similar to that of an orca or a killer whale. And what's important to note here in Hawaii is that this population is endangered. It has been since 2012, and there's only about 138 individuals left in that population, and it's continuing to decline. And so that means if nothing changes, then, they could disappear within our lifetime. And the reason they're declining is multiple reasons, but one of the biggest is interactions with commercial and recreational fisheries. They often get hooked or entangled when they take fish off fishing lines. And then the fisheries are often competing for the same prey. So we know that large fish like tuna and mahi-mahi are getting smaller and less abundant, which makes it hard for them to get the amount of food they need. So they're after the same things that we're after, and so there's a direct competition that's causing a potential impact. And so at Pacific Whale Foundation, we're tackling this challenge in collaboration with the Marine Mammal Research Program at the University of Hawaii. And the big question we're trying to ask or answer is exactly how much fish does a false killer whale need to survive and thrive here in Hawaii? And then we can get some really concrete management actions in place. And to answer that, we're using a combination of tools. And so we attach temporary suction cup tags that work a bit like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, but instead of counting steps, they're tracking every fluke stroke, every dive, and every movement of that false killer whale, and that tells us how much energy they're using in their daily lives. We then use drones to measure their size and estimate the body mass, and from there we can convert that and calculate the calories they burn per fluke stroke and per activity, so their dive or their swims. And then we combine this information and working with collaborators across the Pacific, build a model that tells us the annual fish biomass needed to sustain the roughly 138 individuals. And so fisheries have quotas, and so we're working to look at what's the quota of fish needed to maintain the 138 individuals left. And knowing that number is pretty important because just like humans, if whales are malnourished, they're becoming more vulnerable to other pressures in their environment. So that could be things like disease, injury, reduced ability to reproduce, all things that we're noting and seeing in the population. So these are real consequences for the population. And our goal is to make sure they have enough to eat and give them a fighting chance at recovery. And once that is secured, we can then begin to address additional threats they might be facing here in Hawaii.
Oh, that's amazing. We've got just a minute left, and I know you have got an amazing event coming up, a fundraising event. Can you share with everybody how they can get involved in the fundraising event?
Yeah, so we have Race for the Whales, which is a virtual fundraising and endurance challenge that's kicking off September 1st. It's hosted by Pacific Whale Foundation and invites all ocean lovers of all ages and abilities to walk, run, bike, swim, paddle, whatever you have, anything that has a distance-based activity, and to travel at least 30 miles and raise $300 in support of the whale and ocean conservation I've been talking about this morning. This is fully virtual. It's a global campaign. It directly supports Pacific Whale Foundation's mission, and participants can register online, track their progress through Strava Club, and earn an exclusive 2025 Race for the Whales medal by completing the challenge by the end of September. There's lots of other great prizes for those competing in weekly challenges, so really encouraging folks to get involved. We can have folks become captains and start recruiting if they want to get involved even further. But to join the challenge, they should visit pacificwhale.org and look for the Race for the Whales link under the Trending Now section on the homepage.
Oh, that was awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really glad to have you on, Jen, to share that important information about what Pacific Whale Foundation is doing, the amazing research you're working on, and your upcoming challenge that everybody can look online at Pacific Whale Foundation and get involved in this great fundraiser to support their efforts. It always goes quick. I hope everybody enjoyed today's show. We learned a lot about conservation and agriculture and how we help sustain our community. We hope you'll join us again next Tuesday for Business Matters. And in the meantime, blessings and aloha and a hui hou.